I'm so excited. Okay, Sheri Winston. Who wears a ball gown and a crown to a Zoom? I do when I'm going to meet you.
If I'd known, I would have worn a tiara.
I'm like, listen, we're friends now, so you can't get away from me now. I love you so much, and I just want to tell you, I can go all into your bio. You wrote this book, Women's Anatomy of Arousal, and my mother has probably 14 million copies of this. She gives it to everybody. She's like a 70-year-old woman. She's like, you need this. I'm like, Mom. She's like, they might want better sex lives. So she's like, I use this with my boyfriend as foreplay. They read it as foreplay. She doesn't have that boyfriend anymore, but she literally has so many copies of this book. She's probably given me 5 copies, and then I give them away. So it's my mother. We blame my mother. This is all because of my mother. She saw you speak at Asheville, North Carolina. She's in love. I started reading your book and like, oh my gosh, woman, I love you. Like, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'm so thrilled that you're in this world and that more people need this book. Obviously, my mother agrees. and and to give you a why I wanted you in this conversation is because I'm Angela Shelton. I travel the country talking about sex. It has been for years sexual trauma, like child sexual abuse, domestic
Mm-hmm.
violence, rape. Men too. A lot of men talk to me like I know men's stories, and then they started to being really honest with me. I know I can go into that. There's a lot of like twisted stuff going on out there. Let's just say.
It's
And I'm just like,
heartbreaking.
y'all need better sex lives. But first, let's heal up the trauma. And then my goal is to help people have way better sex lives because I believe that when you have a great union and great sex lives, it's a spiritually connected thing, and then it spreads out, and couples that do that affect their community, and it spreads out, and then the perpetrators cannot exist around a bunch of people who have spiritually connected sex lives.
Well, and can I add? May I?
Please, please.
So it's also about our relationship with ourselves.
Of course.
So our solo sex life is one of the foundational relationships that we have. So
Yes.
if you have a partner, awesome. I want you to have fabulous sex. If you don't have a partner, awesome. I still want you to have fabulous sex with
Thank you.
yourself. And that's also how you learn how to have awesome sex. And just, I've got to say, one of my taglines from ages ago is saving the world one orgasm at a time.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
because I do
Yes.
believe what you said is really important because there's evil and violence in this world. And where does that come from? I think it's the life force in these people that got twisted.
Hmm.
And it's got to come out some way. And if it's not going to come out as love and pleasure and connection, what we're really evolutionarily designed to do, what we came here to do, if it doesn't come out that way and it gets tangled and twisted and turned, it comes out ugly.
Hmm.
And that is, I think, the root of all violence and evil. So
Well
I
said.
kind of a little tongue in cheek, saving the world one orgasm at a time, but it's
You're
not.
not wrong. You're not wrong.
It's genuine.
Really is. I believe it.
Yeah.
'Cause I've gone down that path my own self from my own like
Hmm.
my father was a child rapist, but never raped me. He was
Mm.
raping my sister. So
Oh,
I know, darn. I was like, what am I chopped liver? So I had that like nobody wants me, but from a twisted
so
mind,
twisted.
so twisted.
So
So
twisted.
I had to come out of that
And
literally.
I'm sure some survivor's guilt,
Yes,
right?
of course. And I
As
went
as
into like
well, like,
saving
that your poor
everybody.
sister
Yep,
went
trying to
through
save my
that.
sister. My
Mhm.
sister ended up having fibromyalgia,
Mhm.
and then it lasted until her 430s. And when she finally told her story,
Mm,
her fibromyalgia went away.
mm. Yeah, it's a beautiful story.
Hallelujah. So, and mine was like self-mutilation, self-hatred, getting in relationships with men who really don't like me.
Yeah,
They're
well,
attractive.
we long for the flavor of love we grew up with, no matter how horrible it was.
God,
And
well said.
so,
What are you, an
right?
author? What are you,
Yeah,
an
happen to be sure.
then you're like poetry comes
But
out of your mouth.
But I've also studied a lot of relationship stuff. Harville Hendrix and Mago stuff is all about how we are attracted to people who replicate the patterns that we grew up with, more often the negative ones. And often the very things that attract us are then the things that actually are the things we wind up hating. But yeah, if we grew up in a, with a cold, judgmental parent, we might be attracted to a cold, judgmental partner, or we become the cold, judgmental partner,
Mm.
and we're attracted to somebody who just takes that shit.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And until we start going in there and working on it and playing with it and healing it and, bringing it all up to the light, and then we get attracted to healthy people and healthy relationships.
Everybody needs to read this book. And first of all, and second of all, like, okay, so you're an expert in this, and also you've done a ton of things, right? So my question to you is, from your expertise, you obviously agree with me that we really can change the world.
Absolutely.
So how do we start?
Oh, such a
Rather
good
like,
question.
you know?
Well, I think it starts here. It starts with ourselves.
Yeah.
It starts with our relationship with ourselves, because that is the foundation of every other relationship we have. And if we want to help somebody else heal or somebody else see some pattern, if we've got a partner and we would like them to change because they're just not doing it right, whatever it is,
Yeah.
we're not going to change anybody else. We can only change ourselves. And then when we're coming from a place of self-love and healthy boundaries and comfort and confidence, then we have authority, and then people will listen to us. And also then we will have empathy. And when we have empathy as the basis of our communication, that's a whole different ballgame about how we can get people to maybe change their minds, possibly.
Change their minds from going towards the old patterns into a new pattern.
That and everything else we might want to change our minds about,
That's true.
right? I mean, honestly, gosh, so silly. I was watching one of those little videos of animal friends that are different species.
Yeah.
I love that. And you're seeing the cat who's got the little chicks and is just licking them and loving them up. And I looked at that and I thought, you see, racism and all the other isms
Yeah.
where we hate and fear others, it's because we didn't grow up loving somebody who was different from us in some way, whether it's gender or skin color or culture or class. And I'm just looking at, if this cat can love these chicks,
Yeah.
people can learn that. But if you're raised with those things, then that's what seems normal to you. And so if we want the world to change, that's part of what we've got to change. We've got to be like, look at the cat loving the chicks. You would think the cat would want to eat the chicks, but no, she's just loving them up because they're connected. They found the connection. And that's what we're all longing for. We're all longing to feel connected. Well, maybe the sociopaths and the psychopaths aren't. And there's some people who are just, something is not wired right. They're
I
stuck
spend a
in
lot.
their reptile brain. But for most of us who are in our mammal brains, yeah, it's about connection. We want to be loved. We want to be understood. We want to feel connected. We want to feel part of community, and and people are suffering very badly because they're not getting that. And talk
Oh
about the
yeah.
epidemic of loneliness is
And I
people don't
true
know how to connect.
loneliness in and out of relationships, because I talk to a lot of couples, and you could be in a relationship and be lonely
Absolutely. I mean,
because
I
you're
do
both
some,
not talking to each other.
yeah, I'll do some like couples counseling work, and I'll sometimes start with an individual session for each partner. And partner A will tell me all these things. And at the end, I'll go, have you told your partner that? Oh, no.
Right?
Go get partner B. And they'll tell me all these things. They'll say, have you shared that with your partner? I'm like, oh, no, I couldn't. I'm like, okay, well, that's where we're going to start.
That's where we're gonna start. Yeah, because you never know. And a lot of this, I don't know if you've seen the same thing, but they're usually sexual desires that they're not telling each other, and they're keeping it silent. And it's like, wow, if y'all were just honest with each other, you might have a whole new relationship.
That's very true. And what do people
I mean,
do with
wow.
that? What do they do with those secrets? Well, first of all, they probably feel shame about them.
Mm-hmm.
And shame is big. Shame is ugly and deep and affects a lot of things in our lives and how we behave. They're missing out on opportunities to have that be part of of their sex life, they're missing out on an opportunity for connection. Even if your partner doesn't want to do that thing that you're fantasizing about, they can just know about it and love you anyway, love you for it
Or
instead,
talk about it instead
and
of do
talk
it.
about it. Yeah.
You know?
So yeah, it's fascinating to me. I mean, just sex in general, there's so much shame. I mean, it's so big and it's so deep and pervasive, and there's so many aspects. We're ashamed of our body. We
Yep.
don't look right. It's too big. It's too small. We're too old. Oh my gosh, the wrinkles, the gray hair. Or it's the shame about our genitals. Oh my,
Oh yeah.
that's just that's crazy. And from my background, we didn't do any background anything, but before I was a sexuality teacher, I was a certified nurse midwife, gynecology practitioner, registered nurse, licensed massage therapist, childbirth educator. So it was all these other things. But I spent many years doing pelvic exams. And I cannot tell you how many women were like, oh, I can't believe you have to do this. Oh, that's so
It's so
gross.
ugly.
So
Right.
ugly. And I'm so sorry that you have to look at it. And it's not normal. And I'd just be spending my entire day, going, it is normal. This is normal. What you have is totally normal.
And it's
And
pretty. It's cool looking.
people just don't know. I just don't know what even normal is. And so we've got that whole thing. And then of course we talked about we're ashamed of our desires and our fantasies, and we limit ourselves in our sex lives or even in our fantasy lives. I know, like when I was in my 20s, there was this whole realm of fantasy that I was drawn to, but I wouldn't go there because a good feminist wouldn't have those fantasies.
Oh, like
Right?
what? Do tell.
So, a little dominant submission stuff, but I would not
Yeah.
even fantasize about it till I got to this point where I realized there's no mind crime. Go ahead and fantasize about it. So what? Don't you have to be ashamed of that? You don't have to turn off that particular realm that turns you on. And you don't have to do anything about it either if you don't want to, but enjoy whatever fantasies turn you on and don't judge them and feel shame about them. So yeah, we could just go on and on about the shame thing, couldn't we?
Oh my God. Yeah. I'm a big spiritual person. I mean, I live a hardcore like spiritual life, and my practice is practicing that, you know? And I
Mhm.
had I'll tell you, I'll just openly, because I mean, one of my rules is like, we pretend we're together, Sherry. We're
We
silent,
are.
we're private. Ain't nobody can
We
hear
are.
us.
We really are.
I can tell you anything.
Yeah.
So I did this meditation one time, right after I'd finished my documentary, which changed my whole life, searching for
Mhm.
Angela Shelton, where I traveled around the country and I met all the Angela Sheltons.
I love
That
that.
movie like changed my life. There was like life before that movie and life after that movie.
Uh-huh.
And the night that I finished the movie, I did this meditation in a full moon in Bernalillo, New Mexico, and I was lazy ass, so I was laying down flat, and I was like, okay, I used to do these meditations when I was a little kid, and I would like come apart, like
Mm,
I understood the concept of like being molecules and like
mm.
pieces of self, like that we're much bigger, like we're part of star stuff, kind of. Well, not
Yeah.
kind of, very. And I would go to the ceiling,
Uh,
and then I told this story to a spiritual practitioner who tells me, like, why'd you stop at the ceiling? And and
question.
I right? And then there I was after, and I was like, oh, why did I stop at the ceiling? I want to go further. So my mantra was, I have no fear, I have no fear. Take me, it's okay if I die. Like I'm totally I've faced my biggest fear in my life. I faced my father, and like I did it. I feel like, okay, take me the next level.
Yeah.
Kid you not, this spiritual experience, it was kind of like it was very fast. It felt like somebody like
Mm,
took my body and went whoosh, like a Coke can, just
mhm.
shoved it, and it flew out into the universe. So it was like this,
Wow.
like if anybody saw me, I probably looked like I was having an epileptic fit. And if I tell people, like, if I ever look like I'm an epileptic fit, don't leave me alone. I'm having a great time. Don't touch me. So, so I was in this experience, so like shooting out into the world, into the
Mhm,
universe, and I could
mhm.
feel it, like almost like it was like that was the container that it needed to get to. And I got there. I'm getting somewhere too. I'm getting to your big orgasm. And so I shot up in the world, in the universe, and this little contraption, I guess, while my body was able to travel, kind of blossomed as it came up against, or in the middle of all these thousands and thousands of beings, hundreds, and then there was 12. like a wedding cake kind of. And of
Okay.
course, I'm a rebel who I'm like, what the hell? I ain't getting abducted by aliens. Don't you put nothing on my butt. I'm gonna like that's my brain as I'm coming up. And then the 12, and I was like, is this your soul group? I mean, my brain was just going like, what's happening? What's happening? And then I'm like, stay present. I have no fear. I have no fear. Like, okay, I have no fear. I said I had no fear. I said I had no fear. And so I came up between these 12 like beans, like not lima beans, but beans. Kind
Beings.
of like that movie Cocoon
Yeah.
years ago. Okay, sort of like that. And they were like, "You are fulfilling your mission in this lifetime." And I'm like, "What the hell? And what mission was it?" And they're like, "You're here to be a teacher." And I'm like, "A teacher of what? Teachers don't make no money."
Oh, well.
And they're like, "You're gonna teach people about God because that's what they can understand." And I'm like, "I'm not a preacher. Like, what are you talking about?" And then I said, "Is that God, the light?" And as soon as I said or asked, "Is that God?" my body went shoop again and shot into this light. And it was, you know how when you're having an orgasm and you're like, "Don't touch it. Please don't touch." Like, okay, don't touch it.
Right.
Imagine if you touched it times 5,000. Like
Uh-huh.
it was like my skin coming off, my eyeballs popping out. Like it was orgasm in every cell of my body, like I was a little kid, but each one of those little cells is having a mind-blowing orgasm. It was unbelievable, like unbelievably crazy, full body orgasm. And I'm up there at the rebel that I'm at, like the jokester, and I'm like, is this really happening? And as soon as I said, is this really happening?
Uh-huh.
It ended. And then I went pat and they said more answers will come when they are needed. And I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? And then I ended up, long story short, I ended up like falling on the bed. Like I just like I came to for out of this
Yeah.
meditation. And my first thought was, oh my God, no wonder we like sex so much. Because it's getting back to God. Like I was just with God and it was an orgasm. No one, it's Kundalini. And people have said, oh, that was a Kundalini awakening. And I'm like, I don't like the way label things, but I had a full on, full body orgasm. And I've been able to reconnect that since then many times.
Yeah.
And
Once you find the path.
yes,
Yeah, I know.
but
Cool, right?
it's orgasm with infinite orgasm, not with another person. It's with spirit, God connection. But
Mm-hmm.
but my realization was, look at that. Look at the anger facing, like the all levels of like you're trying to get that. You're trying to get it through violence. You're trying to get it through attachment. Like you're addicted to it. Like I got to get that because it's going back to God. And I'm like, wow. And I literally wrote this whole show, and that was in 2001, and it's 2024. But I'm aware, and I'm like, hi Angela, where's that show? So like all of this is forcing me to go do that show, but to
Mm.
have that conversation of like, listen, we're all essentially disconnected, right? Trying to get reconnected. And when I had that experience, I was like, it's so much in the orgasm. It's so much in the connection, like because spirituality is orgasmic also. And coming from the sexual abuse, I feel like many years was like running away from sex or like,
Sure.
ugh, like, oh, that's not. And so I, in my own life, have incorporated that and brought it in, like had those amazing sexual experiences with other people. And also for me, it didn't mean it wasn't because of that one dude. Like just because I had a Kundalini awakening with that one dude doesn't mean like he owns all my sexuality now. Just like somebody
Mm-hmm.
doesn't own your happiness. It's
Mm-hmm.
just been awakening and awakening and awakening, and it always comes back to God or spirituality, whatever, pick a word that doesn't mean
Whatever word you want to
yeah.
use. Yeah.
And but wow, and your book is like confirmation of that too, everywhere. I'm
Oh,
like, it really is. Like it's heart, it's love, it's spirit. It's like, yo, what the
thanks.
hell is up with people telling me about their sex life, Sheri? It's crazy. It's crazy out there. The most common, like I'm sure you see, but I
But
wanted
before we go on, I just want to say something about ecstasy
yes.
because we are pre-programmed to feel ecstatic when we get born.
Hmm.
Now, most of us were born in hospitals and it was scary as fuck. And it
Right.
wasn't pleasurable. And there were bright lights and rude people sticking things in our mouth. And it was scary. They took us away from our mama. It wasn't a really good scene, right? Probably we were drugged. Certainly my generation were probably drugged. So anyway, but because I have this wonderful background of having been a midwife for a number of decades, I've seen what happens when babies are born and they're in a safe, warm, loving, supportive environment and an energy field where everybody's in this conjoined energy field supporting the mom to have the baby, especially if it's a water birth. And those babies come out beaming like little Buddhas. They come out and they're like, ah, like you can almost hear the sound, and everybody in the room is in that ecstatic space together. We're all, you're here, welcome, and
Uh,
everyone's cries, and it's so ecstatically joyful. But the babies are not crying, they're not scared, they're not freaked out. They are ecstatic. Most of us did not get that
I just
experience,
got chills.
but that's what our hardwiring is.
You right?
That's what we're supposed to get. And then I think we just kind of spend the rest of our lives looking for it. If we're lucky, we find paths to it. And the easiest path is through sexuality, right? Because our life force, right? We get born. The first thing we do is we inspire, we inhale, we take that first breath, and we come alive. We come into our body. You see it. You watch the baby when they take that first breath, and suddenly there's someone there, right? Which is just an amazing experience all on its own. And then we have this potential, this longing to reconnect with that life force. And that's what I say about the whole thing about evil, because that life force, that sexual energy, life force is is in all of us, and it's the most powerful force there is after personal survival, right? Number one, I must survive. Number two, reproduction. Must make babies, whether we choose to make babies or not. That's the template. And how do we do it? We do it through union. And that's how life gets created. And so this our sexual energy is the life force. It's not separate, it's not different, it's not this thing that we do in a separate room behind a closed door. It's part of who we are. And like I said, yeah, orgasm is the easiest way to refuel our connection to the divine, or whatever you want to call
So good. Now, what about people that are using the orgasm as like a porn addiction, where you're using it like you're just orgasming 5, 6, 7 times a day, and it's more of an addiction thing.
it. Yeah, well, addiction is a tricky word to use around sexuality. And
There
it's not
you
really
go.
the word I use,
Okay,
because
I like
addiction,
that.
it's more like, look, if you're addicted to meth and you don't get your meth, you're going to go through withdrawal. It's going to suck, right? I mean, that's to me is
I
real
love you.
addiction. If you
Right,
don't get your orgasm, you might be cranky, but you're not going to go through withdrawal.
right.
So the word I would use is that it's compulsive behavior. It's
Mm,
behavior where you've got a goal, you're trying to get something, you want something,
right.
you need something, you think you need it. And you repeat a behavior over and over and over again to get it. It doesn't matter if it's sex or or food or
Food, right.
bad relationships, or even people who like do high risk behaviors, jumping out of airplanes and stuff like that, right? There, everybody's looking for that next hit of dopamine, of those reward chemicals, and it can get compulsive when it's not in a balanced, healthy relationship with yourself.
Hmm.
So when people are having a porn compulsion, I would say, or compulsive behavior around porn or sex, they're confused about what's going to get them what they really want,
Mm,
right? It's like they found this little shortcut. It's like, it's just like eating sugar all day,
right.
right? It's just not good for you to eat sugar all day. It's probably not good for you to eat sugar that often. That's one of the great things about sex. You actually could have 5 amazing orgasms in a day or in
Hallelujah.
5 minutes, but it's about the relationship that it's in. If it's in a healthy, self-loving, positive relationship, then having lots of orgasms is awesome. If you're using porn, and the problem with porn is those aren't real relationships. Those
Right.
aren't real people. You're not actually connecting to anyone. And it doesn't even matter if it's porn or other kinds of internet relationships. If we are not in the same physical space as another person, there's all these things we're not going to get.
Right.
When we are in the same physical space, our heart waves synchronize, our brain waves synchronize. We become entrained. And that only happens as much as we're having this awesome conversation and we're getting a lot out of it. If you were sitting here next to me, we would be
Yeah.
getting a
Feel it.
whole other level
Yeah.
we can't replicate. And this is why people are so lonely,
Mm,
because if all your relationships are online or virtual or not even with real people
yeah.
or doing real things, um, it's never going to satisfy our hunger for connection, for longing, our longing to have that entrainment with other people, right? And so we can have ecstasy by ourselves. We can get ecstatic, right? Ecstatic means to get outside your normal state.
Is it?
Yes,
Ah,
ecstasy. Um, the state of being outside of yourself.
it's ecstasy.
And we can do that with ourselves. We can do it with other people. We can do it with communities, right? When we're together with people and we're singing together or chanting or dancing, particularly if we're all holding a similar intention of it being sacred or being joyful or whatever that might be, then we're having community ecstasy. Another thing we're starving for,
Mm-hmm.
which is why
That's
people
true.
who are in churches and communities actually live longer.
I love it.
It's not about that
Grassroots festival.
particular
I was gonna,
spiritual practice. It's just you're getting together with other people and having that connection, that community. Now, not all of those communities get ecstatic together, right? But when we have those things, personal ecstasy experiences, partnered ecstasy experiences, and community ecstasy experiences, we're golden. We've got it all. We're checking all the boxes
I
of
feel
what's going
that.
to help us feel whole.
Dancing for me is a huge one.
Yeah, me too.
That's also like the shaky too, like the whole you can shake out all the trauma from your body, when you
Yeah,
actually
sure.
move.
Just
Imagine.
watch a dog get a little upset and then shake it
Yeah,
off.
exactly.
Okay, all
Exactly.
done. I'm good now.
It doesn't stand there for 25 years next to that tree telling the
Yeah,
same
right.
story.
Right. Something bad happened here.
I know. There's something bad happening
It's gonna happen again.
here. The two most common people that I see and talk to, and it might
Uh-huh.
be the same for you, is one is the woman who's been, sexually abused by dad, uncle, grandpa, whoever in the family, name
Hmm.
whatever. And then the man who's been betrayed by a woman. Either he had a mom who was abusive and or neglectful, or he had the ex-girlfriend or ex-wife who was just
Hmm.
next level abusive, and they don't trust anymore. And then she doesn't trust anymore, and they're in a relationship together. And that's a
Yeah, that's
lot.
classic, right?
And
Because we're attracted to people who are going to replicate our childhood wounds, or those are the people that we have the potential to heal those wounds with.
yes.
But that takes a lot of work and knowledge, and not most people don't have that education or willingness to do the work to make it happen. But so I see those people, but I mean, there's so many. There's sexual trauma not by a family member, like a one-off rape experience or something.
Yeah.
There's the whole range of sexual trauma. Right? I was never raped, but yeah, I was groped. I was,
Right.
I had sex and maybe I was kind of not really that into it, but what the hell? I mean, there's this whole range of behaviors. There was, that sexual harasser at work, the flasher on the subway, whatever.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Had
right.
all
This,
that.
the whole range of sexual violations. Um, and that could be happen to men or women. Um, and then there are the people who had partners who treated them very, very badly. And that can be men or women as well. And so then we have people who are just can't connect with somebody else. They can't find a partner or they can't make a relationship work. For some guys, because of their porn habit, they get with a live flesh and blood human woman
Yeah.
And it doesn't go well. They can't get a hard on. They don't know what to
Yeah.
do. They do the things they saw in the porn. It's not making the woman happy. Um, so we've got so much misunderstanding. We don't understand erotic energy and the polarities, the yin yang, or what I like to think of as the pussies and puppies at School of Love, right? Of understanding, we tend to be attracted to people who have an opposite sexual polarity. And so we don't understand that. And it makes it really hard to make things work. So the range of people that need help in this department is
Are great.
is
And
pretty.
speaking of, by the way,
Yeah.
your audio book of this is really
Oh,
great.
thank
So
you.
I was like, it's a great thing to, hey y'all, anybody's having troubles, listen to the audio, put it in your earballs.
Yeah, I got to do that. That was me.
I know.
Yeah. Oh, that was
Great
that was
job.
so much fun.
I
I had
bet.
so much fun doing that. And it was so easy afterwards. It was like, I can make a career of this.
Yeah, people make a lot of money reading books. Uh,
It was
but
so fun.
it was great. It made me think about the pussies and the puppies. It made me
Yeah.
remember your audiobook.
Yeah. I mean, well, this is one of my little models. I'll just say a little bit more about it because I just think it's so useful. So first of all, of course, we have cliches for a reason. So we say men are dogs. We refer to, people as pussies for various reasons. But in a lot of ways, our erotic energy can kind of replicate the fact that, for example, you don't play with a cat the same way you play with a dog.
It's true.
Okay? If you want something to fetch something, you want a dog, right?
Yep.
So dogs, or the kind of core erotic energy of most men most of the time. Not all men, not all the time. Most
Right.
most most is that dog energy. And so our ideas about masculinity are really confused because we think of masculinity as being bad dog energy. What's a bad dog? That's the dog you walk in a room and it jumps on you and it knocks you down and starts humping your leg, sticking its nose in your crotch. That's a bad dog. Not that the dog is really bad. The dog is badly trained. But we don't want that from our male partners or the women who have that core energy. What the high masculine is exemplified by the service dog, the seeing eye dog, right? So they're using all of those skills, wanting to serve, focus, and attention in service to this higher
Mm,
goal.
mm.
And when we understand, oh, the rapist is the lowest masculine, it's completely unbalanced, just pure young energy, just taking without regard. The high masculine is being in service to the planet, to your work, to yourself, to your partner, to your family. That's the high masculine. And the feminine, it's like we like to say, right? Cats have staff.
Ah.
The cat is not there to serve you. We are here to
That's
serve
right.
the cat. That's just the reality. And if you want to make friends with my pussy cat, do you run up to her, grab her, throw her on her back, and rub her tummy?
No.
That would be a really bad idea, right?
Yeah.
You'd be bleeding and she'd be gone. You wouldn't get near her again. If you want to make friends with the pussy cat, you start with the connection. You go, you get their attention, you make eye
Mhm.
contact. And then how do you approach the pussy cat? At what speed do you approach?
Mhm.
You pay attention.
To the
You
cat.
go at their speed.
Right.
And you look for those
That's a
signals
good
of opening and being
comparison.
ready to receive or
Right.
closing and withdrawing.
Yep.
And if you want to seduce the pussycat, you
Mhm.
go at her pace, you show her that you're safe, you show her you know how to give her pleasure. You start with the safe areas, you rub the ears, and then she'll let you rub the neck. And if you take your time and you go at her pace, you will sooner or later get that purring puddle of pussy that you're after.
It's true.
The feminine wants to receive and surrender and open and surrender into ecstasy. Now, just to be clear, we all have both.
Right.
We all have both. And yet, most of us, one or the other of those is our core erotic energy. Now, that's not how I am in my work life. My work life, I could be pretty much of a dog, right? I'm
Right.
focused, I'm assertive, I'm getting things done. That's how I am at work. I still want to be empathetic and listen also and all that good stuff. I want that balance, right? If I'm teaching, I want to give, serve information, but I also want to pay attention and receive questions and notice how everybody's doing, right? We want that balance there. But when it comes to sex, I'm more of a pussycat than a puppy dog.
Same.
And most women, that's how we're wired. Not all, but most. Now, that doesn't mean I couldn't be in a mood where I want to take my sweetie and throw him on the bed and jump on him. Sure, sometimes I do want to do that, but more often I want him to throw me on the bed
Yeah.
and then slowly and seductively, take a lot of time and pleasure me until he gets the purring puddle of pussy. But
Ah, I love you.
and he'll get
Look,
that because
he'll
he's a
get it.
seeing eye dog. He will get it because he's a seeing eye dog. He's trained to be attentive and in service and get the reward of having me surrender into ecstasy, and then he can ride that ecstasy with me. Right? That's what
Literally.
the dog wants. He
Literally.
wants to see you be ecstatic, right? So we don't understand that. And our sexual model, our cultural sexual model, is a male-centered model. And it's a porn model. It's the porn model,
Oh,
right? We skip the foreplay.
yeah.
I
And
don't like the word
everyone's
foreplay.
shaved too sideways. I mean,
Oh, that's a whole other
right
thing.
note. That's the whole thing. Like, I mean, I have hair. Imagine.
Yeah, wow, you wild woman.
Wild woman.
You wild thing. Yeah, I watched that whole thing happen because I was looking at,
I'm sure
looking
you
at
did.
crotches since I was 20 years old, and I'm in how old am I? I've been looking at crotches for like 45 years. And let me tell you, I watched that whole shift happen, and I just still can't why would you want to do that?
Itchy.
I don't get it. I know.
So, what's the craziest thing you've ever seen? Out
The
of all your,
craziest thing
out
I've
of
ever
all
seen.
your pussy
Oh my
journeys
gosh. Okay,
you've
so
ever seen.
this
Tell me.
woman comes in,
I love these
and her
stories.
body shape is basically like a man, right? I mean, clearly she's a woman, but she's built like a man.
She's
You
like,
know what I mean?
okay, yeah.
Like the narrow hips and the sort of broad shoulders and the hardly any body fat, and she just has a very masculine looking body, hardly any boobs. And I go to do her exam, and the head of her clitoris is at least this big. It's bigger than my thumb.
Whoa.
I thought for a moment, I wonder if she's intersex. That was my first thought. I go and I look back at her chart. She's had 3 kids. She's not intersex. She's got all the standard female working reproductive parts. And I did my usual empowering pelvic stem thing, where I telling her how normal she is, and I'm saying everything,
Love it.
And she goes, well, I kind of thought that my clit's kind of big. I'm like, yeah, but it's normal. But it was by far the biggest one I've ever seen.
Oh, that's a big clit.
It's
Wow.
a big clit. You got a big clit. Yeah, some
Does
some
that
guys
mean
with big dicks, right? I mean, it's just yeah. So
maybe
that was
that
crazy.
was that something? I mean, what do you do with a big clit? Is it so sensitive or is it not sensitive?
It's probably the same amount of sensitive because it's just like a small dick or a big dick. You all get the same amount of nerve endings, more or less. It's not about the pleasure. And it's not about the size. It's just what you got. It's like, I don't know, big boobs or small boobs, whatever. They all work the same. You have a baby, you want a nurse, they're gonna make milk. Size has got nothing to do with it. So
Oh
yeah.
my gosh.
Size matters in some things, but not in genitalia.
That's wild. I asked my OBGYN that same question and she
Yeah.
goes, "Oh, it was the lady who came in and thought her uterus was going to fall out, so she put a potato up there and it sprouted and grew into her fallopian tubes and they had to have
No.
surgery."
No.
Yeah. And I
Oh,
called my
oh,
grandmother because
no.
my grandmother has this thing for potatoes. She's always like, she's not supposed to eat them because she has diabetes, and she's like, one tater never hurt nobody. One tater never hurt nobody.
That tater hurt somebody.
I had to call her. I was like, Gran, one tater can hurt somebody.
Okay, I have another one though. This is a
Oh,
really good
put
one.
it up there.
Okay. So I was working in a clinic and I had a young woman come in for a series of visits. One was a pre-abortion visit. She was 16 and pregnant. So pre-abortion visit, yes, she's pregnant, she has the procedure. She comes to me whenever it was a week or two later for her follow-up, and her test shows she's still pregnant. Okay, this is weird. Now, this is a long time ago, so ultrasounds weren't so common. So I send her for an ultrasound. She's got 2 uteri.
Oh my God.
She has a duplex uterus, 2 uteri, 1 vagina with a thin septum. So she did have the procedure. In those days, there were no medical, it was all surgical. She had the procedure, but they were in the wrong uterus. So she had to go have another procedure where they made sure they went into the right uterus. And this poor girl is 16 years old, and I'm telling her she's got 2 uteruses. And she's like, I could tell she just felt like such a freak. And I said, hold on a second. And I went into the office where we had textbooks,
Oh,
and I
yeah, let me
found
show
the
you.
textbook.
Let me show you.
Let me show you. And I showed her a picture. See, these are the variations. Look, here's a woman just like you with 2 uteruses and 1 vagina. Here's a woman with 2 uteruses and 2 vaginas. See, it's unusual, but you're not a freak. No, it is like a 1 in a million.
It's a 1 in a million, but you're still cool.
You're
Oh,
so cool.
wow.
Yeah. So that was up there too. Yeah.
Goes back to that self-love. And also, you know what? You mentioned the men and the sizes. And
Yeah.
I have learned so much about the men. And I work with a lot
Mhm.
of men. And I mean,
Mhm.
I don't like have a lot of men like that. But I've practiced on my share
Yeah.
and learned amazing things you can do with the
Yeah.
smaller penises too.
Yeah.
Like amazing. So it's like everybody can play, everybody can have a good time. There's
You don't
not,
even need a hard penis.
I know, I had
Even
somebody,
men who, because of maybe diabetes or something, can no longer get an erection, they can still have a lot of fun. They can still have orgasms. You can have a lot of fun with your partner. So this whole fixation on penis size is so useless. And even this whole fixation on erections isn't that helpful. Because for most men, certainly as they age, that's probably going to get less assured, or with for health issues, or just, certain times it's just not working. So I think it's important for people to know that you can have awesome sex pretty much no matter what,
yeah,
honestly.
and then everybody has those negative thought patterns. I mean, I was just talking to a guy yesterday who has a huge dick. And he's got that thing where he doesn't want to hurt anybody. So it's like,
It's a challenge.
I mean, there's this whole, I was like, come on over. I'm just kidding. I'll help you. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, but there are things that you can do. There are ways to
Yeah,
manage it and things to learn. And I've worked with couples, especially couples where he has a very, very large penis and she has a very shallow vagina.
yeah,
And it's true, there are some things you're not gonna be able to just wail away. You're just gonna be able to like go to town slamming away at her
Mhm.
vagina, but there's a ton of things you can do, and here are positions, and here are strategies, and all sorts of things that you can do. And sorry, that's my one of that's my deaf cat.
Is
You
he?
can hear her.
Was he yelling over there?
Yeah, she's got no voice modulation because she's deaf, so she
Oh my
always
God.
sounds like she's
Ah!
complaining, having a fit. Really, she's probably hungry. Anyways, just
That is
ignore
so
if you hear yowling in the background. Anyway, I got distracted.
We're telling stories. This is exactly what I wanted to talk because I
Penis
knew I could
stories.
talk to you forever. Because with my own disassociation practice during sex
Yeah,
because of trauma, I would like I was married for 10 years and I was never in bed with him once, not one time.
yeah, I know.
Like
I
you're
know.
in a fantasy or whatever.
You're just
And
not
so
there in your body.
no. And
Yeah.
my book that I just am almost done with is turning your bedroom into a holy place.
That's a good
And
thought.
one of the practices that I did was that I've shared with a lot of survivors that has worked, and I wanted to share with you is
Mhm.
uh, it's an acting technique that I learned like in acting where you embody an animal. So
Sorry
pick
about
an
that.
animal, like whatever
Yes.
animal that is, you know, and
Okay.
then
Pick an animal.
and do a dance on the dude who's not allowed to do anything to you. He's
Okay.
not allowed to like, comment like,
Just
um,
receive.
just
He's being the
receive.
yin partner. He's just
Yeah, just
receiving.
receive, and doing a full body dance, and the the goal slash challenge is use every part of your body on every part of his body
Oh, fun.
as an animal so that you're out of your mind, like
Yeah.
out of your sight. So, I've had women say that they were like cats or like, or a snake
Uh-huh.
and the whole is to just get out of your body and get away from remove the goal of orgasm.
Always a good idea.
So just dance and then get your body every single part of your body. That means this too. You know, that
Yeah.
means everything
Yeah.
on his body in a dance. And it's been really, really helpful for me to come
Yeah.
out because the same thing comes up. You got cellulite or you got this or a fat roll and just to get out of your head on that from an
Yeah.
acting standpoint and having the freedom to not be judged or like guided. That's where they're,
Right.
just let them receive.
Just receive.
Amazing practice. I've done it many times for my own.
Lovely.
It's exercise and it's
That's
a
always
great
good.
massage
Always
for
good.
both. Also,
And it's great also to go into the other polarity. We're talking about that yin yang pussy puppy thing.
Mhm.
So it's great to play some games where one person's the giver, the other person's the receiver, and then you can switch. And that way you get to really explore all the aspects of yourself and also understand where your partner might be coming from better. So that's another fun thing.
And also I had him uh look at my parts
That's great.
and describe them and feel it.
Yeah,
That was huge because you said it earlier, like women are like, "Oh, sorry." Like they're apologizing. You
I
have to look.
know. They're apologizing.
Meanwhile, you should charge a ticket. It's
I
great.
know. Well, when women would say to me like, "Oh my," off about their genitals, I'd go, "Really? Like, why do you think so many guys want to get in there? Why do they want to get in there so bad if it's so nasty?" And they'd be like, "Oh, yeah, right. Guys really want to get in there."
I
Like,
know.
shit.
Everything. The smell too is so like I love that smell. I
It's a
love it.
great,
It's a
it's
great
full of
smell.
pheromones. It's
And I'm
full
like,
of turn-on chemicals and attraction chemicals.
yep. I started paying attention to my menstruation, like of that smell. I'm like, healthy.
And we smell
Or
different times of the month. And even if you learn how to female ejaculate,
I
your
did.
ejaculate will smell and taste different at different times of your cycle.
Does. I
Isn't
didn't know
that
I could
fascinating?
shoot it across a room. I answered an ad.
It's pretty cool, right? So so as far as the going on the little tour,
Yeah.
so when I teach about anatomy, the truth about female genital anatomy, all the parts women actually have, including the parts that are not in the other books, not in the textbooks, not in the sex books. So all the parts that are really there, and I encourage women to go on their own solo guided tour, find everything, feel everything, check it out when you're not turned on, check it out when you're medium level arousal, high level, and then if you're partnered, take your partner on a tour and show them all
Yeah.
and how they operate and how they change during arousal. So that's a really, I mean, it's great to go on the tour, just checking it all out. It's even better if you're going on the tour where you're showing them and helping them feel, and yourself too, of course, all the parts that you might not even know were there.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Like
and
the ejaculating one. That's a that's a
which
tricky
one?
one. The ejaculating one.
Yes, the urethral sponge. So actually, so we were talking before about doing a part two to this,
Yes.
and that the part two will be the guided tour of the pussy pillow,
I love your
and
pussy pillow.
some of my anatomy drawings. So part two, part two is going to be all the parts that female bodies come equipped with that we all have, how they're connected, how they work, and how to make them happy. So we're going to do a little part
I
two.
love it.
For
Well,
you.
okay, so part two, I'll sum up right now of how we're going into part two, and
Yeah.
you'll appreciate this. So I got fired from Notre Dame. It was a huge speaking engagement. It was 10 grand, and
Oh no.
I did a comedy cooking show on my comedy cooking, where I showed it was Thanksgiving, and I showed you how to find your G spot on a turkey and how to get it and how to do the squirt. I was with my mama and it was funny. And I had like the G spot book and like I showed you how to do it on a turkey and they
And you
fired me.
lost, you got fired.
They sent me an official letter. Sheri, official letter that said,
Sucks.
we hired you. Well, it was actually a blessing. I look at those like, I'm like, thank you for that. Because
Okay.
we hired you to speak about violence against women, not about women's sexuality.
Not about pleasure. Oh no.
But we saw your comedy cooking show and we're ending your contract. And so we're firing you essentially. And at first I was so apologetic. I was like, like that was a comedy show and I'm not talking doing that at Notre Dame. Like, I mean, what? That's two totally different things. And then as I'm super apologetic, I'm like, hey, wait a minute.
Yeah, wait a minute.
This is totally connected. This is sexuality and violence and all of it is all connected. We need to be talking about this. You need to learn about amrita. You need to learn about squirting. You need, like, if we all knew about this, there would be less violence, I think. And
It's
also, it was two women who fired me, not men.
oh, well, I'm not shocked. I'm not
I'm not
shocked. I wish
shocked,
I was, but I'm not. You know,
right?
I think the thing, even in places where there's comprehensive sex education for kids in school, whatever, comprehensive, they're still not including pleasure. By
Right. How dare
comprehensive,
you, kind of,
they
how dare
mean we're going to talk about birth control, we're going to talk about anatomy, but they're not talking about pleasure. And that means it isn't really comprehensive. And that's the best sex ed we have in schools in this country at this point, is what's considered comprehensive. But no, we're not going to help you figure out how to have orgasms if you're female, or how to, learn how to take your time if you have a penis. No, no, no pleasure involved in our sexuality education, if you're even lucky enough to get that.
And this is why I think we should teach healthy sex in church.
I'm all for it. Which church is that going to be?
I've done it. I did it once by accident because I was
Okay.
invited to speak and I was like, are y'all sure? Are you sure you want me? And I did my speech like about having healthy sex and I got a book deal. And
Well, there
the
you
the
go.
preacher was like, so it was
Never
very
know.
welcoming. It was actually, it did the opposite of what I thought it was going to do. Everyone was like, oh my God, I'm so glad you're talking about this. So
Well, you
I'm
never
like, you
know,
know
huh?
what? We need to talk about this because also I think that's the perfect place to do it. So that
Interesting.
I'm on a goal to
But
do that.
that has never crossed my mind as the perfect place to teach about sexual pleasure. Just I'm not wired that way.
I'll do it. Send me in.
Good, good, you do that.
Oh
I've,
yeah,
I've talked
100%.
I've talked about it almost everywhere else, but church, no. No,
Yeah,
wait, I'm trying to think, I've taught in Unitarian churches, but it was like their community space. It wasn't like part of the church
part
thing.
of the church. Yeah,
But but and lots of like pagan alternative
I'm sure.
spirituality. Sure.
I'm sure.
Yeah, but not a church. So good that we need that. We do need
We
it.
really do because I have my ulterior motive that I'm pretty open with is healing up those men and healing up the women that support the men, and the men can go and fight the perps. Can we have
Yeah,
that happen?
yeah.
Can that
We
happen?
we have
Because it's
we
too
have
bad out there. It's not good out there.
it's not. It's not. There's so many there's besides even the sort of the violence and all of that, but there's just so much misinformation and myths about sex, and so many people are just unhappy, miserable, and it affects all of your relationships, not just with your partners, but your kids, your community.
100%. That's why I was like, I'll volunteer to talk about it in church. Sure,
Good for
Sherry.
you.
I'll do. And then I totally want to go on a journey with you. I know we spoke for an hour. I'm like, I'm so appreciative of you. I knew it. I knew meeting. I'm like, see, I need to come to your house and we get the heart vibes.
Yeah, we totally do.
I'm just like, I
That's very
love it.
fun.
I appreciate you so much. So I'm like, I want a tour. Can we go on a tour?
A tour? A tour of
You
what?
said
Of the
you said the
the
part two
next
is
one?
the tour.
Part two, we're going to talk about female genital anatomy, because the fact that in this day and age, the age of the internet, where all information should be right here at my fingertips, or here at my finger,
Yeah.
it's not. And the doctors don't know, and the sex educators, the midwives, nurses, sex therapists don't know about the basic equipment, the basic standard female body equipment.
It's crazy.
And it's it's heartbreaking
I know
because
it
there's
is.
so many effects. I mean, obviously on pleasure, but also on health. I mean, not understanding that the uterus is a player in arousal and orgasm
Mm.
has, which it is, has this enormous effect. We've got the highest rate of hysterectomy in the world. That's removal of the uterus. And why do we take them out? Well, most of the time, well, it's because that's what they learn to do, right? So basically, 95 to 96% of hysterectomies are unnecessary.
I believe it.
Now,
Just
if you've got cancer in your uterus, I'm all for you take it out. That makes sense. But if you just got some old fibroids in there, get rid of the fibroids, keep the uterus. And what women are told, they're every single time they're told it won't affect your sexual response. And before I went on this whole hunt for buried pleasure and figured all this anatomy stuff out, I already knew that that was wrong because I had patients coming to me who had hysterectomies telling me it did affect their sex life. Their
of course.
orgasm wasn't as powerful. It felt like something was missing. And what did the doctors say when they went to their surgeons and I'm like, oh, it's all in your head, honey. You're fine. The uterus has got nothing to do with sexual pleasure. That's just wrong. It's just a lie. They just don't know any better.
They don't.
So that's just one little example of how not having this information affects our health as well as our pleasure.
Well, allopathic medicine is not your friend.
Not general, not and if you break a bone, it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, but overall, it's not your friend. And also, they know nothing about nutrition either. They're not taught anything. So it's like with
They
my
don't,
asthma, like I was in and out of hospitals,
yeah.
and they would always, doctors would always say nothing to do with what you're eating. Yeah, it is.
Okay, how about how we do birth in this country? You want to get me on a soapbox?
Oh, I know.
Oh, it's horrendous.
We
We've
need
got
birth centers. We need birth centers.
we
We
need midwives and birth centers and midwives and home births and birth centers, and that should be managing 90% of births.
yes.
But what people don't understand is the doctors in the system in the hospital are causing the problems. And
Mm.
then when you get a C-section, which you wouldn't have needed if you didn't go down that whole that whole cascade of interventions, and then they're like, "Oh, we saved you." It's like telling the arsonist who set the fire, and then is like, "Oh, I put the fire out, so I'm a hero." No, he set the fire.
Oh my God. I
People are
had to
so
have
confused.
one. My
Well,
baby was breech. I had a I had all the doulas, I had the midwives, I had
there are
hypnobirthing,
times when it's appropriate.
and it was like,
That's
oh
probably maybe 5% of births.
yeah, and I was
Yeah,
my sense of humor, I'm like bawling
yeah,
my face off. I'm
yeah.
crying. And I go into the operating room, and guess what the song is on the radio?
What?
Turn around.
No. My son was breech for a couple of weeks towards the end of my pregnancy, and I would get in the position. There's a position you get in to
Oh
check
yeah,
the turn, and I made up verses to that. I would sing that to him.
that's funny.
It was really funny.
So you took
But
so it came on in the
some,
operating room, and
yeah,
I started
some
laughing.
C-sections are necessary. I wound up with a C-section. Right? My planned home birth.
Oh,
Oh my gosh, nightmare story. But anyway, but here's the thing: my son would not have survived,
right.
and I know that that is true because I'm very knowledgeable in this area. But most of the time, well, the baby went into distress. Why did the baby go into distress? Because you were screwing around with the labor. See, here's the thing. I'm on my soapbox.
I love it.
Labor and arousal are both altered states of consciousness, and they are almost the exact same altered state of consciousness.
That's why you can have orgasmic births.
It can happen. But even if you don't have orgasmic birth, if you want to have a primal birth, what I call primal, a labor that proceeds at a good pace and everything goes the way it should, you need to be in the right set and setting. Because think of it as if you're trying to have an orgasm. So imagine trying to have an orgasm. Well, you go into the hospital because orgasms are highly risky experiences. And then you put on the stupid gown and they put you in the bed and they strap you to a monitor and they have the fluorescent lights and strangers come in and look at your crotch and touch you. And you're supposed to know, and they're like, okay, got an orgasm yet? Okay, you got 10 more minutes. If you haven't had an orgasm, we're gonna have to give you drugs to make you have an orgasm. And that doesn't work. We'll have a surgical orgasm. Or imagine saying that to a man and saying you've got to get an erection that way. How
Right. That's
how
arousing.
would we do? We wouldn't do well. The labor isn't going to progress in the best possible way because we have screwed up the biochemical soup that supports that altered state of consciousness.
Yeah,
So
how do we just start having birth centers everywhere?
we need birth centers and home birth. In
Mm,
Holland, a third to a half of babies are still born at home.
awesome.
Home birth is totally safe. I've done hundreds of home births. I bring all the equipment, all the medications, anything you might need, but you hardly ever have to use it because you're at home. And the vast majority of times when you do have to go to a hospital, it's not a time sensitive emergency. You've got plenty of time to go. And if it is a time sensitive emergency, I've got IVs, I've got drugs. It's just not the whole terrifying
Mm-hmm.
crisis that it's made out to be. But
But they
what
make it, they
we
scare you.
have
Scare you into it.
highly, I'm sorry, what?
They scare, that's because they scare us into it.
Oh, totally. And then
Yeah.
who's managing it?
Yeah.
Highly skilled surgeons.
Yeah.
They should be managing the highly complicated births. The
Yeah.
5 or 10% of women who are having high risk pregnancies. Sure, they might need to be in a hospital. They need to have a highly trained obstetric gynecological surgeon. Does everyone need that? No. And in fact, when you have that, you're more likely to wind up needing that highly trained surgeon.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because we've got horrendous birth statistics in this country.
Oh yeah.
If you compare us to the rest of the industrialized world, our statistics are embarrassing. They're so bad. And
Yeah.
if you're a woman of color, oh, it's
Forget
even
it.
worse. Even worse. Yeah, it's horrendous. Honestly, when people say like, what can I do to have like a great birth? Get a great midwife that you vibe with and have a home birth.
I, I was on my way for there. I wasn't,
Yeah,
I had a, it was like home slash in the hospital. They had like
yeah.
birth center,
Birth
like
center. Yeah.
that's like
Yeah, I worked in one of those too. It was awesome.
it's amazing. But
Yeah,
she was breech.
yeah. And here's the thing, every now and again, just like for you and for me, you still need surgery. But
Yeah.
most women, 9 out of 10 women who got C-sections did not need them.
I know. They're like
And
scheduled because around golf.
well, there's that whole thing about, when births happen. But anyhow, the
The
fact
best,
of the matter is if we understood that to have a great birth, you want to create the same environment that you would create to have great sex.
that is so well put.
You need
So
to
well
feel
put.
safe. You need to be warm. You need to be uninterrupted. You need to not have people asking you stupid questions that are causing you to think. You need your thinking to shut off, just like when you're getting turned on. And in fact, what I used to do is I would tell my couples, okay, why don't you guys go get naked and go get in bed and have some, make out. No fucking, but lots of nipple stimulation would be great. Lots of kissing. Literal stimulation is fine. Orgasms are awesome. Go play. If I need to check on you, I will knock and I will wait until you tell me you're ready for me to come
That's
in.
awesome.
And then when I switched over to doing birth center birth, I would tell the partner, if it was a man, bring a pair of swim trunks and you go get in the shower with her.
Oh yeah.
And the birth center, when I first started working there, did not have birthing tubs. And I am responsible for them eventually getting birthing tubs.
Yeah, you.
First, I started with having my clients rent tubs and bring them in. First, I had to get permission for that, which was a rigmarole. And then when they started to see, oh, this is a good thing, they wound up renovating the birth center and putting birthing tubs in.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yay. It's the
Yay.
small wins. So
Small wins are important.
as we go in, like, so we'll go to part two, but we
Yeah.
can sum up like just meeting and talking, like, because here's my question to you, which I think you've answered already, but just to sum it up, like, how do we heal people's sex lives that are just so broken? It starts with yourself.
It does. And then it starts with communicating like we're doing now and putting information out into the world in all the ways we can by doing programs like this, blogs, whatever, all the different communication strategies we have, and trying to what's the word, get a chain reaction going.
Yeah.
Because every person we teach and every person we touch and every person that gets informed is then going to go on and spread that out more and more and more. So at some point we might reach some kind of critical mass, like the stuff I teach about the female genital anatomy, the secrets of buried pleasures, my subtitle of the book. I want one day for this not to be a secret anymore.
Right?
Right? I want to have someday I want to have to change the subtitle because
Right?
it's not a secret anymore. Everybody knows.
Got
It'll be
goosebumps.
like, oh, everybody knows that. That's not a
Yeah.
surprise. Um,
And
I was
people like
hoping we'd be
me are not
we'd
getting
be further
fired.
along. Sorry. I was hoping we'd be further along by now.
Right? I know it's like we went 3 steps forward, 5 steps back to, and then like things like me getting fired for a comedy show. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's so crazy to me.
That is crazy.
But I'm
And
just gonna keep boldly talking about it and just getting
yeah.
banned everywhere. I ain't afraid.
Well, and it's an interesting time for women's reproductive health, shall we say. Um, but I think with all of the horrific legal things that have happened in the last couple of years, it's firing women up,
Yeah.
right? So, like you heard about in Alabama, this Democrat woman was reelected. I can't remember what the position was. Was elected in Alabama, right? Deep red state, because she was running on the platform of reproductive freedom. And they expected her, it was close. Maybe they thought it would be a tie or she'd be ahead a little or lose a little. She won by 25 points,
Wow.
a landslide, because women were like, all right, enough of this. Partly it's because they were going after IVF. So that shifted the conversation from it's all about abortion to, oh, it's about a lot of things. Because
Yeah.
they're coming for contraception next. They
Well,
are.
I think it's a time for us, all of this that's happening, it's a time for us to go back to the earth anyway. Go back to grandmas, go back to birth centers, go back to like, to help to get away from allopathic anyway, really. You
I'm
know?
a pretty big fan of all of the methods of contraception.
Yeah,
And
I hear you.
if for some people, fertility awareness is awesome. I used to think cervical caps were just the best thing in the world, but they stopped making them. Um, Condoms are fantastic. Some people, those methods are just not going to work for them for various reasons. And for those people, I'm glad we have IUDs and pills and and injections and inserts. I'm glad we've got all of those things because I don't want anyone having a baby who didn't want that baby,
For
who
real.
wasn't ready to be a mama and didn't have the whatever you need in your life to have a baby. So I'm a big fan of like every child should be a wanted child. So I'm all for all the methods of contraception, every single one, and find what works for you, but use it. And they are coming for it. So
Yeah, there's definitely a
sucks
war
for
on
men.
women, erasing women. My God.
It is a war on women, but
It is
I
so.
think the backlash to their backlash is going to be the shift,
Right.
right? It's now it's getting to the point where it's just going to activate every woman and every man who supports women and loves women and has daughters and wives and women friends. So I think we did have to go back. We've gone
It
back,
looks like the pendulum. Yeah, it's like it's really
but
is
it's
like
going to swing the other way now because we are no longer the little shrinking violets. I mean, we probably haven't been for a long time. Look what women did to get the vote, right? I mean, those women were warrior women, right? So we're
right.
going to have to be warrior women for all of these things. And hopefully, as part of that, it's going to help people start, bringing sexuality into the world of wholeness and healing and health and pleasure. And we're going to get rid of all that shame,
Yes.
all that
And
shit.
that sex is medicine. It's like
Yeah.
body medicine. I have it on my calendar as
Yeah.
body medicine time.
Nice. Body medicine time. I
And
like
if
that.
I'm not with somebody, if I'm solo, then
Did I tell you?
I still do a self massage or I do a lymph nodes. That's another thing with all the lymph node draining to
Mhm.
incorporate that in your sex
Oh, that's a great idea. I
has been
never thought
great.
about that.
Like if you're on top, if you're use your
Uh-huh.
this or your elbows to get the lymph nodes and
Oh, that's great.
you're doing two things at once. And,
Bad
and
idea.
then you know how everybody is like into this choking thing because they saw that stupid movie.
I can't
Well,
stand
right
it.
here is like here's your lymph nodes, so you can be
Yeah.
like, listen, you can do the.
Okay.
You're not.
Hard boundary for me.
You're just like, well, it's not choking here. It's like here.
I know.
Here's your lymph node.
Yeah.
But you can hold somebody with that and like be draining their lymph nodes.
Oh, why not? That's beautiful.
I'm all about it. Yeah, yeah. Perry, I'm gonna hopefully get him for this summit. Is Perry Nicholson? He is a chiropractor who does lymph. He just shows you all the lymph nodes, little like massages you could do, and I practice
Mm.
incorporating that in the bed.
I never thought about doing that.
You're
So thank
welcome.
you.
And you do one or you other. You know, like when you have the man lay there and accept your dance, you do the
Absolutely.
same thing where you're doing his lymph nodes and then he does your lymph nodes, and then
Mhm.
everybody's like healed up and you've had an orgasm.
Well, I'll say one more thing. I can't, we're gonna have a hard time stopping. But in terms of reprogramming our brains
Please.
and getting rid of shame, the best time to reprogram your brain is when you're in a state of arousal,
I believe it.
right? So the same way, if you want to quit smoking, you can get hypnotized. And when you're hypnotized, you're in that suggestible state.
Yeah.
The same thing happens when you're aroused. So if you've got shame around something, when you're in
Yeah.
that state of arousal and you shower yourself with some positive affirmations about it, that's going
Yeah.
to be just way more times better than just saying it to yourself while you're looking in the mirror after you brush
Yeah.
your teeth.
That's funny you say it because I've been giving coaching myself and also doing this myself
Yeah.
during that sexual time instead of doing the whole, oh yeah, fuck me with your big dick, that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
saying like, I'm so proud of you. I love watching you work. Like I love like watching you build whatever you're building today. Or I love what like I'm just making it really present and connected to
Mhm.
how proud and like awesome you think the person is, not about their parts. And I'm telling, watch how your orgasm elevates. And the dude is like, because so many of the dudes are totally emasculated and not, especially in the world right now. Like men
Yeah.
are, and so when you tell your man that like, I'm really appreciate you, I watched you do that one thing, like, and I, you know, whatever it was, like my dude I like is a mechanic, so I'm like when I watched you on your bike, like I
Yeah.
like watching you on your bike, like it's a
That's
different
good.
arousal instead of this whole
Yeah.
like, porn culture where you think you need to
Right.
say like fuck my
Right.
pussy or whatever, and it's
Yeah.
like making it present. It's been really, and the people that are practicing that have gotten back to me. They're like, oh my god, we had the best sex we have ever had, and I'm like,
Yeah.
ah.
Yeah. My husband has a really well hung vocabulary.
Well said.
And it's just one of the things I really love about him so much.
Well said. Another
Sometimes
thing,
size does matter.
I love it. I love it. Do, do, do. Uh, I'm going to take notes on things I want to talk to you about, which is to be the full exploration, and I'm also in with your exploration of the parts, the pussy
Yeah.
parts, and a part two.
Yeah.
Another thing I would like to bring up slash question that I've discovered
Yeah.
is head, deep throating. When the penis hits here,
Yeah.
I also squirt. It's
Yeah.
like a circle.
It's a circuit.
I'm like, wow, did that really happen?
Yeah, it's a circuit.
That's
Oh, we'll talk.
amazing.
We'll
That's
we'll
like
we'll have a
amazing.
whole conversation about circuits.
Mm.
Yeah, because you can
Yes.
learn to have orgasms from giving head, which
Yes, I have.
you've learned how to do that. That's a learnable skill.
That's amazing.
It's such a win-win, right? I mean, everybody's happy.
Everyone wins.
Everybody's happy. So
This is so fun.
and you can train yourself to do all sorts of things. Like you can have orgasms from nipple stimulation. You can have
I can do that.
full body, hands-off orgasms, all learnable stuff. So
Yeah.
when we're doing the anatomy, we'll throw in some orgasm skills, and
This is funny. This
God
gets
only
people
knows
to
what
like,
else. God us only knows what else we're gonna get in there.
come again. Come again. You got.
Yeah.
Well, I'll let you rest because I could talk to you for hours.
Clearly.
I'm going to call my mother,
Uh-huh.
Sheri.
Okay.
I'm going to tell her that I just was talking to you. She's going to lose it.
Oh, I'm so glad.
She's going to be like, which book did you have? The seventh copy that I have.
Well, my son, when he was in high school and college, would come home and be like, "Hey, mom, can I have a couple copies? I've got some friends I need to give them to." And I'm like, "You have as many copies as you want. Give them to all your friends." It was
It's
great.
great. It really is great. And it's amazing how I mean this was you were book of the year in 2010.
Yep, that's when the book came out.
I mean, we need to like read it again, people. Read it again.
You know, I when I was writing it, I actually envisioned it would be this kind of book that would just go on and on. You know what I mean? I
Hmm.
mean, I had a real vision around it, and this is exactly what the vision was. And people around me were like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, it's self-published book. They yeah, probably you'll sell some." And that book has helped support me ever since, and has got
Love it.
I don't know, hundreds of 5-star reviews on Amazon, and has
I'll,
reached a lot of people. And I'm so proud.
it's
It is my passion. It is my mission. It
I
is my
love it.
pleasure.
So to sum up, what do you want people to do now? How can people get in touch with you? What do you want and need in this world?
Okay, well, you can always go to my website, Intimate Arts, plural, Center, spelled the American way, intimateartscenter.com. So there you can read blogs for free about a lot of the stuff we talked about and more. I've got recorded online classes um, about a lot of the things we talked about as well. And you can get those. And if you want to have a one-on-one consultation or series of consultations for yourself or you and partners, that's available as well.
What's your favorite
And
thing to do?
wait, well, just what I do have another book called Succulent Sexcraft. So
Tell
if
me.
you love Women's Anatomy of Arousal, Succulent Sexcraft is your hands-on guide to erotic play and practice for singles, partners, people of all genders, and it's lots more of the ideas and the games and the skills and that sort of thing. So if you like the
Getting
first
it.
one, you might want to check out the second one.
Yes.
And yes, Women's Anatomy of Arousal is available in a couple of other languages, as well as the audio version, which
It's
I
great.
narrated. It's fun. And you can download the anatomy illustrations because you need to see those.
Oh,
The book is available on Kindle too, but honestly, I recommend the physical book
I do too.
because I'm an artist also, and every single page of that book
Yeah,
is
it's great.
artistically laid out.
It
And
really is. It's
yeah,
really great.
it really is a
I love
and what else? Yeah. Also, and I have a little supplement dispensary that I run for my
Oh, you
clients and
do?
patients that I open up to people. Yeah, so it's a company called Full Script, and as a care provider, I can have a dispensary. And I originally had it just for my clients and patients, and I was like, well, anyone can use it. It's called Winston Wellbeing. You can find out about it on my website. And so you get supplements for 20% off retail,
Nice.
25% off if you do a subscription to it.
Share.
And I make a little money, which is a fine thing. And we donate a little money. My husband, who's a tennis um, pro, and he's an author and does many, many things. He's a wisdom author. He's a wisdom author and tennis teacher and writer. And so he started a tennis charity called Tennis for Good.
Aw.
And they
Is Carl
provide,
your husband?
Carl Frankel.
Oh, nice. That's your
Yeah,
husband. Nice.
it
That's
is.
awesome.
So we donate some of the profit to his charity.
Oh,
So
that's
it's a
cool.
win-win-win.
That's winny, winny, win.
It's a win-win-win. And I think I've covered everything.
What's your favorite thing to do?
What's my favorite thing to do? What we're
Yeah.
doing right now
Oh, yay.
is my favorite thing to do.
Same.
Yeah, it really is. I love working one-on-one with people, but knowing I can reach a larger audience. I mean, it's why I started teaching, right? Because when I started teaching, I was a midwife and gynecology practitioner, and I would go in the office and I'd see patients, and I would teach them, and I would tell them stuff, and I was teaching childbirth classes, and I would teach women about birth, and then I started teaching. I was like, I've got all this woman care stuff, so I started teaching womancraft classes, like teaching about menstrual health and stuff. And then I taught my first class about how to have better orgasms. Oh my gosh, so much fun. And it was just for women. And then my guy friends wanted to come. And I'm like,
They were
okay,
like,
it's
what you
just for
doing
women.
over there?
And then I started teaching class for men about female sexuality. And at that point I was like, oh, this is my next calling. I get it. And that's how my Intimate Arts Center curriculums developed.
I love it. I've been doing that on OnlyFans, Sherry.
Oh yeah?
Yeah,
Tell me
teaching men,
more.
teaching men about how to have better sex and how to get off the porn compulsion. I like and into their purpose more. How to like
Mm.
uh, I do sacred dick readings. Like, and,
Okay.
and teach them like
That's new.
like, yeah, it's awesome. It's like
Yeah.
it's been very fulfilling. I did it just to have another outlet to talk
Yeah.
to men, and also a little trick because you think, oh, she's hot, clickety click click, and I'm like, I've got you.
You're gonna learn shit.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I'm like, and read this chapter here. You know, it's been very great. So I
That's
tell
awesome.
them to get your book, and I also tell them to get Amara Charles too. Do you know her
Uh-huh.
yet?
She's
Yeah,
awesome. Yeah.
she's great,
Yes.
and how to actually like have better sex, not just this imagine, And a lot of these dudes are impotent and
Hmm.
they have super like insecurities because of their own past of trauma that they don't tell anybody. And I'm the one that, people tell me everything.
Yeah.
These men like break down and tell me everything. And I'm just like, oh, my heart, my heart. I love them so much. And so I just love, you know what? I have that thing where I really love people.
Yeah, and people are longing for somebody to hear their story and understand and be empathetic, and men more so because women usually, most of us, we've got some women friends.
Yep.
We can be
Men
real with
don't.
our women friends and tell them what's really going on and get the connection and empathy. Most men, they got
Zero.
nobody. Even
Zero.
if they have male friends, they're not going to talk about their bedroom challenges
Yeah.
or what's going on with their penis. No, so they're so hungry for it and they need it
It's
so badly.
That's what I've been doing. It's really awesome. I'm like, it's a calling.
It is. It totally is. I
It's been
get that
that's my
completely.
gift. Is the that my
I
I've
get
taken
it.
my own goddess healing, and
Yeah.
then teaching the men, and so it's
Yeah.
been super
Yeah.
great.
And they want to know. They want to learn. I
And
mean,
they're awesome. Like men are
they
great.
are.
There's
I
some
know.
great guys out there.
I know. And
I,
there's so
it's
much
like,
negativity about masculinity
oh
and men.
yeah, I'm like, I'm gonna call BS on that. Like
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
this,
Well, there's some jerks out there.
well, that's true.
And there's an awful lot of awesome, awesome men who want to be happy and healthy and healed and want to be good partners. And they've had no modeling. We've had no, what kind
I
of
know.
modeling have we had about how to have healthy relationships, how to have compassionate communication,
Oh no.
how to
Yeah.
resolve our challenges and disputes? We didn't get any of that. At
No
least
shit.
I didn't.
I know. Well, I got my creepy dad. That was like, this is sex education in the home. That was not right. I know.
Ugh.
Gross. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, but look where it brought you.
I know, and I look like him. My mom always said that. Well, you got something.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, Jesus. Well, I
Um,
appreciate you, and I can't wait to talk more and deep dive the parts.
Excellent. I totally appreciate you. You are such a delight.
Same to
And this has really been a pleasure. So I'm
folks.
looking
It's
forward to
been a
part two,
pleasure. It's been a pleasure.
right?
Come again, everyone.
Uh-huh. Carlos, another one of my taglines. It's a business doing pleasure with you.
That's amazing. Oh, that's funny.
You could use that one on your OnlyFans.
The business doing pleasure with you. That's funny. That's awesome. I love
Oh,
it.
okay, one more, last one. We put
Tell
the
me.
comeback in community.
Oh, that's good. Come again.
Yeah.
We put the comeback in community.
Uh-huh.
Come
Yeah.
to our church event. Oh, it puts a new. Oh my God. I
Yeah,
mean,
well, we say it for a reason.
yeah, exactly. There, we all say, "Oh my God,"
Yeah.
for a reason.
Oh God. Oh God.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh Jesus. Come again.
Okay. Yeah.
You're
So,
amazing. I love you. Thank you for being alive.
oh, It's so great. Such a fun read. So much fun. All
Thank
right.
you.
We're gonna stop
And
now.
I'll email you and come up with our date to do too.
It's a deal.
Thank you. Mwah. Bye, y'all. Vagina, vagina.